Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2019 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGillivray Speedway at the corner of 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. If you're coming into town for the PRI show, you got to make sure you stop by McGillivray. It's only about 2 miles straight west of the Speedway. You'll love it. Great food, great service, and of course, adult beverages are always ice cold. Tonight's show is presented, as always, by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, and SVRA. A couple things to mention in case you missed it, and I don't want this person sitting here listening, or she's listening now, to fall out of her chair and get nervous, but Jack Harvey and Meyer Shank Racing are in for a two full season. Full season. And their technical connection is going to be with Andretti Autosport, and they did pretty well with Harding Steinbrenner, so it should be a good thing. And I have to have a special thank you to my IT guy sitting behind me. He's been wounded and unable to work for a while, but he's here and been helping me out. And if it wasn't for him, this thing wouldn't be going on because I don't know how to do it. Want to remind you, if you got a computer problem, which I seem to have plenty of, Computer Overdrive can help you. It's the home of the free checkup. Call them up, make an appointment, go down and see them. Number's 317-328-0766. And if it's time for your dental checkup, there's only one place to go. And I'm saying that because Sharon goes there. Eldon has been there. A number of people go there. Phenomenal. The Indy Dental Clinic, or Indy Dental Group with Jack Miller and his wife, Dr. Liz Lewis. Phenomenal practice. If you need an appointment, give them a call. 317-846-6125. Tell them you heard about it on Autosport. Won't do any good, but tell them anyway. And this Saturday night, I mean, it's just, I'm so excited. As you can see, up here behind Bob is the beep line will be here, live and in color, and this time they start at 8 o'clock to 11:59. Now, I'm going to time this 11:59 nonsense, but just remember when thinking, what are we going to do Saturday night? Well, you're never on hold with beep line, so come on in, have dinner, listen to some great music, have a couple cocktails, and enjoy yourself. That's beep line this Saturday, the 16th, starting at 8 o'clock. My first guest is a gentleman that I have to chase, and I was nervous when it was snowing yesterday because he said, one of the things I don't like to travel in is snow. I went, oh, no. But Mother Nature said, we'll give you a break. So he agreed to come here. I was afraid to call or text him and say, are you going to make it? He might have been given him the opportunity to say, no, it's too cold. But his neighbors tell me that with his hip replacement, he trots out to his mailbox, so he's in good shape. He is the newest inductee into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame. One of the most recognized and respected motorsports broadcasters in America. Please welcome the one, the only, Mr. Bob Jenkins.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, we left at 8 o'clock this morning and rolled here about 20 minutes till 7, so we had a very enjoyable trip from Crawfordsville.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How's your hip doing?
It's good. Just in the last month and a half, it's really stopped hurting completely after almost a year and a half. And so, yeah, it's not bothering me much at all. I'm not going to get out on the ice, though, and go ice skating or anything, but it's okay.
That's probably a good idea to do that. It was reported, and I heard you say it, that last Monday at 8 o'clock, as you're waiting for your percolator to get the first cup of coffee, you get a text message. You wonder, who in the world would be doing this, interrupting me at this hour?
Well, actually, it was a phone call.
Oh, okay. Well, I made it the other way.
Nobody calls me at 8 o'clock in the morning because normally I'm not up. But this particular morning I was up, and yes, I was brewing my first cup of coffee. And I looked down at my phone and it said IMS. And I thought, who in the world is calling me from the IMS at 8 o'clock in the morning? And so I answered it, and it was a recorded message saying that all Hullman and Company employees should report to the media center that particular morning for a major announcement. And I thought, wow, this must be a major announcement for the word to go out at 8 o'clock and the announcement to be made at 11. So unfortunately, I didn't go, but just a very short time after that, I got an email from the Speedway to media members urging them to be there at 11 o'clock for the announcement.
And you went?
No, I did not go. No, I watched it.
When you heard, when did you first hear what the announcement was? At 11 o'clock?
No, just shortly after the phone call, I got an email saying to members of the media that they should be there at 11 o'clock. So maybe 10 minutes after 8 is when I learned, and the email did indicate that the Speedway was going to be sold to Roger Penske, and I thought, wow, that is a major announcement.
What did you think when you heard that? First off, the Hallman George family selling the Speedway.
It was a shock, but I've been out there since 1979, and I swear that there hasn't been too many years go by that the rumors have not been rampant that it was going to be sold. And so, given that many years of non-sale, I was surprised that the actual sale was going to be done. But on the other hand, I wasn't surprised because of all the rumors that have been going for many, many years. But very, very pleased with what has happened and think it will be a great move for everybody in Indiana and around the world who likes open wheel racing here in the U.S. and maybe around the world.
What kind of changes do you think that the Penske Entertainment will do? Now, I was told last night, and I don't know how legitimate it is, that the current CEO or former CEO of Hallman & Company will now become CEO of Penske Entertainment. What do you look that they may do that hasn't been done or expand on?
I really have no idea. I don't think there will be many major changes in terms of personnel, at least for a while. And I think that any change of activity on the racetrack will be slow to come also. Roger did mention, of course, during the news conference that glass is going to be broken, so new things are going to happen. And one of the things he mentioned was a 24-hour race, which I'm okay with. And I just hope and hope and hope that Formula One is also on the horizon. But I don't know. You know, they're going to have one in Miami, is it?
There's been talk about it.
Yeah. So that would mean if the Speedway did get a Formula One race, it would be 3 F1 races in the U.S., and I don't see that happening, but I hope it does because I love Formula One racing. I watch it religiously. I know that the competition is sometimes not as good as you see in other open wheel divisions, but it's such a spectacle, it's such an event that I think it should come back to the Speedway. But as far as major changes, I really don't see any. Lighting, well, at this point, I don't really care. Go ahead and light it. As long as the Indianapolis 500 is not run during the nighttime, I don't care what other races there that will run under the lights. Just to make. But, you know, I think that when Daytona runs at 24 hours, and I may be wrong about this because it's been many, many years since I was there, but I think they have a little bit of lighting in the infield, but on the other hand, the cars run with the headlights, and so I don't think it would take a great deal of lighting to make it acceptable for a 24-hour race.
No, I think you're right, and he did mention that he was going to investigate Formula One again. I mean, Tony built all those garages, which is good when SVRA comes. These guys can go in there, but he did, as you mentioned, he did say, looking at bringing IMSA in. Of course, he has a couple cars running there, so that would make sense.
Yep.
And I think he kind of indicated that perhaps Speedway can be an entertainment venue as well. Yeah,
I mean, they've had concerts there. They do, of course, during the month of May, and They brought the Stones here in the past, and I don't have a problem with that kind of thing either because it doesn't involve me. And
Yeah.
unless they bring the Lawrence Welk Orchestra in, I probably wouldn't go to it. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason why it shouldn't be opened up for other events other than auto racing. The seating capacity is certainly there. And again, if we can attract a good crowd for anything and make a little money, that's fine with me.
Doug was here a couple of weeks ago. He said one of the problems that they have currently is when they bring in a major act and they need a stage, they have to rent everything. And it crossed my mind, knowing how Roger operates, and I don't know everything, but how he operates, that if he takes that direction, they'd probably have a stage. It would be there all the time. They wouldn't rent it. They just put it up and hook up the lighting and so forth. And I think they have, obviously, Allison Meglinton, who is very familiar with entertainment and how to get it, and has booked some great talent. But when you bring in what they did to start with, it's kind of hard to match that. But they have. I mean, they've had Blake Shelton here and Journey, who I'm not familiar with. And when I had Allison here, I said, "Who will you bring in?" And she told me, "I never heard of them." Oh, really? I don't know who it is.
I'd be in the same boat. Speaking of Allison, my last sentence, I think, when I accepted the Hall of Fame award with the Speedway in May, I said that to Tony and other members of the Holman George family, I think you have the best staff at the Speedway now that I can ever remember, and that includes Allison Millington and Mark Miles and Cindy Lucchese and many Doug Bowles, for gosh sake. Let's hope that never changes. But I really think that the staff at the Speedway now is the best in many, many, many years, if not ever. And so I hope that there's not a major shift there, and I don't think there would be. But another thing I want to say is we all remember the pictures that we have seen in 1945 when Tony bought the track and the deplorable condition it was in. Just compare that picture to what you see today when you go into the Speedway. And all of the changes and all the improvements were the result of money spent by the Holman George family. And I think that we shouldn't dismiss the contribution that they made, not only of the structure, but also things like the safer barrier. I mean, where would racing be if it weren't for Tony George pushing the safer barrier? So thanks, Holman George family. I think you did a great job, and we hope some of you stick around.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you probably heard what I did when Mark Miles became president and CEO of Holman and Company. So many people said, "What does he know about racing?" Well, you don't have to. He knows how to put people in place. You can tell by what he did with the Super Bowl committee and what he did with WTA tennis. I mean, he took guys that were making and gals that were making $100,000 and they may become multimillionaires. Yep. He does know how to do it, and I think if he moves up to being CEO of Penske Entertainment, that'll be, in my opinion, a great move.
And I think that's one of the things that is really important about Roger. He is probably one of the smartest, as far as I know, and I don't know him intimately, but I think he's one of the smartest businessmen that we have in this country right now. And you combine that with the incredible passion he has for all kinds of racing, and you got a winning combination. I just don't see how things can go wrong with Roger Penske directing the ship.
I thought it was kind of funny when I think the first time he spoke, he said that he was quite familiar with where pit number 1 and 2 are, so I can find that. And I've got a pretty good idea where Victory Circle is. He said, "I think I'll be all right here."
Yeah, I think so.
And I think with his passion for the 500, and it's obvious he does have, because he spends an enormous amount of time and effort and has the people to make it happen, that this place, it certainly won't go down. It can only get better. And I noticed he was one of the guys, along with Chip, I think it was, that said, we need 25 guaranteed spots. Well, he backed away from that at press. He said, no, it should be the 33 fastest, which I think is great.
Well, I had an interview with Michael Andretti last week, and that was the thing I asked him about. And I must admit, I have really mixed feelings about this, because I can understand the car owner's concern when they sell a sponsorship. And the thing that the sponsors want more than anything else is to have their name on a car in the Indy 500. And when that doesn't happen, it's a real blow to the car owner and to the sponsor. And so he suggested that the regular members or regular car owners who are in races during the year for the 500 might be guaranteed a spot, and then the other spots are up for grabs. I'm going to just say, I don't know. I see both sides, but it's a real sticky wicket as far as I'm concerned.
Well, if you remember, the Aero team missed with James Hinchcliffe, and I think they got more publicity from that, and they've stuck around and stepped up the pace now with McLaren. So I don't know that it hurts so much. It's part of the game. I mean,
you know, I may have told this story before, but this is just, again, why I feel that the selection of Roger Penske was the greatest thing that's happened. I had lunch with a owner of several racetracks here in the United States. I will not name names, but I asked him if he would be interested in buying the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he was certainly wealthy enough to do so. And he said, I'd love to buy the Speedway, and you know what I'd do if I owned the Speedway? The first thing I would do would be to make it a two-abreast start, because they wreck on the first lap of every race. Now, that's the kind of thinking that may have fallen into the hands of the new owner. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and fortunately, Roger Penske, I'm sure, does not think in those terms.
I'm sure not. Because the last thing he wants is to have his cars damaged, and he's got enough of a problem in NASCAR with that. So that would make, to me, would make no sense. But then I still think that, you know, the 33 fastest, and I have a feeling that with his leadership and what he will do to help get new teams, get more cars in May, that you know, the bumping will come back. Because I remember when I came here initially in the early 60s, on pole day, there was 250,000 people here, and they stayed around for bump day.
And on practice days, I remember driving out when I was working downtown at the radio station. I remember driving out, trying to get there, and I got backed up on 30th Street, a long, long way from the Speedway. So there were good crowds on practice and on qualifying days both, and maybe that will come back. I hope so.
Well, I think with his efforts and what his thinking, I don't doubt that, and I think he will, you know, put the effort in and whatever it takes, money, I'm sure, to make sure that the thing gets built back up again, because I think he'd love to see that. You are still probably the most recognizable face and voice in motorsports. Do you miss? No,
I'm not. No, not outside of this room. Now, I used to get recognized a lot when I was on TV, but I've been out of TV for, 8 years, and I don't get recognized anymore. And as for my voice, well, so what? I mean, I love fans. I really do. That's what I've worked all these years for, was to please fans and to make them happy and to make them like auto racing just a little bit better. So if I can continue doing that with my voice, I will do it as long as I possibly can. Thank you.
If you were offered a seat in a booth, would you go?
A seat in the booth?
Yeah, broadcast booth.
TV?
Yeah.
No. I'm retired. I am. The only thing I do is work the public address on practice, qualifying, and race day at the 500, and on practice, qualifying, and race day for the NASCAR Series, and that's all I want to work. Because I'm extremely lazy. I mean, I am just incredibly lazy. See?
And you sold your mulching business, so now
yeah.
what?
I don't even have to do that now. So, no, I go wherever I want to, whenever I want to, and I just don't want to do anything except be here with you, Don, occasionally. Huh?
I hate to say this, but you generally, almost always, if you're around, you do that. I mean, not because of me, certainly, but look at the crowd. I figured, it's cold, the first winter, we had snow. Yeah, look at the crowd we got.
I know, thank you.
It didn't for me, I can assure you.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, for him. And wait till you hear the second guy.
Who's the second guy you have on tonight?
Packy Wheeler.
Oh, cool.
He will be similar to John Force. I'll ask him a question. I'll go sit down.
Yeah.
And I've known him for about 30 years. What do you see? Is IndyCar, they keep talking that the crowds are growing. And I keep going back to when Brian Barnhart was here one night. He said, we get 30,000 people at a race and it increases 10%. That's only 3,000 people. You really don't notice that. But do you think from your watching, and I'm assuming you subscribe to NBC Gold, that it is in fact picking up?
Yeah. Got a long way to go, but we need to all keep working on that and to make the racing really, really exciting, because it's always been my contention that the competition and the close racing makes people want to watch on television and pay the admission charge to get into a race. If we don't have that, we might as well quit. But I think we're in really good shape to increase attendance and increase the TV ratings. But NASCAR still has a stranglehold. Their ratings are very, very low compared to what they were 4 or 5 years ago, and their attendance, as you see at every racetrack. I couldn't believe Texas. And I know that Eddie Gossage complained before the race that the Formula One race on the same day in the same state hurt, but I'm not sure that's true. But no, I don't either. The attendance is very, very poor nowadays compared to what it was, and so we both got big battles to fight. Do I think it would be a good idea to run a NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader? No.
I agree.
Well, a lot of people say yes, that it will be good for both series, but I just don't agree with that, because I don't think what we would display with our racing would really be interesting to NASCAR fans, because they like to see wrecks, they like to see bumping, they like to see fights among drivers after the race, which really, really bothers me. What kind of an image does that display to young race drivers who are coming up hoping to graduate to the NASCAR series? I just hate that, and I think that NASCAR should take a really strong hold in penalizing and fining drivers who fight, or at least push and shove and act like they're fighting at the end of the race.
With a helmet on.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
I express my opinion a lot on this show, don't I?
That's all right. So now what I find interesting, or found interesting, is, and we have the voice of the Indianapolis 500 sitting here tonight. Mark Janes is here, and he will be on the show after the first of the year. We're working on that. But their listenership is astounding. I mean, it is really high. They've got
the radio network?
Yes.
Yeah. And you notice when it started gaining in popularity was in 1999 when I left.
Mark and I were discussing that just before you got here. But
it's true.
But I think Mark has done a great job, and the characters and the people he has on there. Michael Young was here last week, and he's a piece of work. Yeah. But they got a good broadcast team, and in my opinion, Mark is where he should be, the voice of the 500. I thought that's when he and I were sitting up on a roof, and he's spotting, and I'm helping him because he's only got one eye, I got two. So between the two of us, we had three. He watched the leaders, and I watched behind to see what's going on. And the thing that interests me, and Buddy McAtee was, the last time he was here, before he passed away, he said, within 5 years, regular television will be passé. It will be all electronic. It'll be, whatever, online kind of stuff and so forth. And I've noticed, and I've mentioned this before, people walk around with a phone in their hand. There's a race in front of them, and they're watching it on their phone. Like, good grief.
Yeah, I haven't graduated to that level of technology yet.
Neither have I.
Everybody that I talk to has Netflix or YouTube TV or Amazon. I don't have any of those. I have good old Uverse from AT&T, which is expensive, but it gives me everything that I want, and therefore I have no need to do that other stuff. But you're right, technology is just increasing by leaps and bounds, and in a way it's good because we can see all practices and other things on outlets like NBC Gold. And that will continue to increase as we go down the road. But for right now, I'm sticking with the old school because I am old school. Because I am old.
You aren't even close yet. I just had one here a couple of weeks ago.
I had one a little more than a month ago.
Yeah, but you're still a kid. I probably got you by 10 at least.
Oh, no, you don't.
Oh, yes, I do.
Didn't we have this discussion once before, and you told me how old you were?
Probably.
And then I laughed.
Well, everybody else laughed. They came in here that night, and they laughed as well. And somebody brought in a gurney and a couple of wheelchairs.
How old are you, Don?
80.
Are you really?
Yeah. What is a, I'm trying to say,
You don't look 80. And speaking of that, does Roger Penske look 82?
No.
I couldn't believe that.
And to see him at every race, you wonder, how do you run this conglomerate?
Yeah.
And you're at the racetrack almost every weekend. And he said he told his wife, Kathy, my hobby is racing. I don't play golf. I don't fish. But he wouldn't play golf and fish 4 or 5 days a week either, I don't think. I asked Al Sr. one night, I said, when does Roger sleep? He says, on a plane. Really? He said, he's on a plane more than anywhere else. He sleeps on a plane, okay. It'll be interesting to see what he does. Are you looking forward to continuing in May, continuing what you do out there?
Sure. If Roger and everybody else wants me, I've said time and time again that as long as I can and I feel like that my brain isn't fading on me, I'll keep doing what I'm doing because I don't know. Thank you. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have anything to do for the 500. And at one time, from 1960 until 79, I just thought the greatest thing in the world was going up into the grandstand and watching the race and following it from there. But when I began working out here and have worked in every position that you can imagine, I can't see myself ever going back to the grandstand and watching. So I hope that I can continue to contribute in some way to any job that I'm capable of doing for as long as I can.
How did you get here? How did you end up working at the Speedway? Who brought you or suggested, come on?
Paul Page. I came here in '79 as a newsman at Wire Radio and did a lot of street reporting. And Paul Page was working at WIBC in the same capacity, and we ran into each other and we got to know each other, and he learned of my passion for auto racing, especially the Indy 500. And we just continued to be friends up until 1978 when he and I started, and nobody has ever heard of this, we started the USAC Championship Network, and we broadcast on radio every USAC Championship race that was being run then. He was the anchor and I was the pit reporter. And that then the next year in 1979 led to my position on the IMS Radio Network, which for the first 2 years I was on the backstretch, and then I went to turn 4 and then into the booth.
What's the most interesting race that you have seen that you can think of? Which one? I mean, I can think of a couple that I think, wow. And they won 500 miles, they won by an inch.
Oh, it was definitely 92. I mean, that was that was the highlight of my broadcasting career, getting to call the closest finish in history. And so many things about that race that make it memorable. And, of course, one of them was the cold weather and the wind and the fact that nobody could heat up the tires fast enough to keep themselves out of the wall. And there were just numerous accidents. Mario crashed, Jeff Andretti crashed, and Michael Andretti was cruising. And we all know what happened then. And then when it came down to the closest finish in history, because between Alan Jr. and Scott Goodyear. So that will always be number one. And the second most memorable race I ever did, believe it or not, was a NASCAR race the same year, the final race of the year at Atlanta, when there were 5 drivers eligible for the championship. And they kept dropping out one by one. And, of course, it came down to Alan Kulwicki winning. It was also the last race for Richard Petty and the first race for Jeff Gordon. So that will be in my memory bank for a long time, too.
Have you found, as I have, that IndyCar drivers are probably the most approachable in all motorsport, except USAC guys? You can speak to them, but you know, IndyCar drivers are available. If they're not putting their head on and getting a car, they will stop for the most part, pose for a picture, sign an autograph, or chat.
Yeah, and I think that's changed because at one time, I think a lot of IndyCar drivers just avoided their fans and autographs and pictures as much as they could. But I think that's changed over the years, and drivers do understand that the fan is the one who pays their money to get into the race. They're the ones that become fans of a particular driver. And there's just no excuse for a driver not being accommodating and not being available for interviews. It's a bonus to them, and it certainly is something that the fans just absolutely love.
Well, last night I attended that fundraiser they had at the karting center. And
Did you drive?
Yeah, I drove there. That's how I got there, yeah.
No. Did you get into a go-kart?
No.
Or did you put on a go-kart?
They've got big enough ones for me to fit in.
Really?
Getting out of it's a little problem.
Oh, yeah.
But I talked to both, I'm sorry, Nina, I talked to both Jack Harvey and Connor Daly, both of whom Connor says he may have something coming up shortly, not likely a full season, and I don't understand why he isn't getting a ride. And Jack said that when he's available, he will be here. And I mentioned that to Nina, and she said, "I'm going to Florida. If he's there, I'll fly back." I made that up. I know because of you. Yeah, I know you set him up going to Orlando to Walt Disney and see Mickey Mouse put his uniform on and everything. I know. Same thing. I don't know what Star Wars is. Do you think in the years since you started, I came here in '64 or something like that, and you know the race would be won by a half a lap or a lap, and people couldn't wait to get a ticket for next year. Mm-hmm. Now they win by a second, a half or 2 seconds. They say, "Oh, it's not that close."
Yeah,
it's changed dramatically.
Well, and one of the reasons is something that happened a long time ago, and that was the Pacer lights. Who remembers the Pacer lights? Weren't they great?
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe they were afraid to bring the pace car out at the Indy 500 and bunch up the field. But yeah, that was a bad idea. There's a lot of things that have changed to the point where competition has become much, much better over the last few years. And I think, again, that will continue to be because the more engines we have, the more drivers, whether they be American or foreign, will make the competition better. And there's just nothing on the horizon, I think, that will detract from a very, very bright future.
You know, the thing that impresses me is Felix Rehnquist and Marcus coming here from Formula One. And when I've talked to him, how do you like it? He said, "This is much more fun. It's better racing, actually." Because if you're not one of the top three, if you're not Lewis Hamilton or the Ferrari guys. If you're not them, you're back in the back trying to figure out how to get into the top 8.
There's basically 6 drivers, 3 teams that dominate the races, and everybody else is just running for 7th on back. But I still love Formula One, watch it every week or every time they have a race, and just love to see the series come back here.
And you notice their crowds are huge.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I don't know whether I was surprised, but very pleased. The crowd at COTA. Did everybody notice that?
Yes.
It looked like they were sellout. Yeah.
That's a big event.
That's great.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll do the same thing here. It started out good and then kind of tailed out a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think the right promotion, the trouble is those guys aren't available for media coming in ahead of time as IndyCar drivers are. They'll take them around to upcoming events and get them on television and radio and all that stuff. Well, I certainly appreciate you coming out in this frigid weather.
Boy.
I know. You had probably even had to put gloves on.
I did, yes.
Boy.
I found them, so I wore them. I don't get out of the house much when it's cold or raining or snowing or the temperature is below 65. Thus backing up my statement that I'm very, very lazy. But I love coming here and seeing you folks, so
and what do you
keep
think?
Calling me.
I was just going to say, should I call him again before the start of the season? The thing that makes me nervous, though, is in the spring, you probably may not have gotten to your mailbox as frequently. It might take you a couple of days to empty it, so it might be tough to get here.
Well, just give me a call. I'm always, most of the time, I'm answering it, unless I don't recognize a number. I don't think I have yours in my phone.
You answer me. I thank you for taking the time to come here.
Thank you.
And I'm sure everybody here is glad to see you. He is the man.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks very much.
Bob Jenkins, a member of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame. He went in with Dan Weldon, by the way, which I thought was a good combination. My next guest will be heading this way eventually, I hope. Oh, I see him back there. In the meantime, I will mention to you that tonight's show is presented by the Indy Racing Experience. If you want to know what these drivers like about IndyCar, take a ride in the 2-seater. It is spectacular. I'm aware of only 2 people that hit the red button to stop it, and people get out and they scream and yell and jump up and down. To get us, find a time that you can make it, you can go to IndyRacingExperience.com, find a date that matches where you're going to be, and then when you sign up for it, in the promo box, put SJ1, you get a 50% discount. Or you can call Shonda at 317-243-7171. Ask her to set you up, and she will be more than happy to do that. If anybody is looking for a vintage car, and there are people wanting to get them, I highly recommend you call the Grand King Race Shop. They have some available, and they also will restore yours if you've got one. And you're saying, how do I get this thing restored? They can do the thing complete. Body parts, pieces, chassis, and build engines for you. So give them a call. Tell them what you're looking for, what you want to do, and they'll help you out. The number is 317-820-3959. And if you're coming into town for the PRI show, get a group together, 6 to 8 people, and you can take a tour of the working museum, which is the Grand King Race Shop, or you can visit also another 1 or 2 shops while you're in town. They have a stretch. They'll pick you up at whatever hotel or wherever your group is, and they'll deliver you back where you started. Again, 317-820-3959. And talk to them about it. Set it up. You'll love it. If it's time for insurance, you got to do what I've done and what a lot of people have done. I've gone to VP Insurance at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Mike Pardee can take care of you, he can help you, and you'll be pleased to find you get better coverage for less money. And when you got a problem, he's there to help you. Give him a call, talk to him. Number is 317-248-0070. That's VP Insurance in Speedway, 317-248-0070. And if you are a Vintage fan, SVRA is the place to be. And if you want to see what's going on in the vintage world, you subscribe to Speed Tour Magazine. It's a fabulous magazine. Great stories, great pictures, and it's really worthwhile. So go to svra.com and subscribe to Speed Tour Magazine. And as I said, well, I already told you that, so I won't say that. My next guest is a young man that I have known for about 30 years. When I first met him, he was working for Dick Simon Racing. He has moved on from there and is a spotter, has been for quite a number of years. And he had a graphics business on site, so if you had a new sponsor jump on board or you bent something, you could get the graphics put back on your car very quickly. And he has been a spotter for a number of years. He got tired of the snow and he sold his snow shovel and moved to Florida, but he's back again working for Bell Helmet. He's a good guy, and as I said, I probably only have to ask him one question. I can sit down. Please welcome Glenn Packy Wheeler.
Thank you. I'm not going to say anything tonight.
All right, well, that's the end. Listen, for next week.
This is a question answer. We're going to just let them speak.
Let who speak? Them. Who's them?
Well, anybody but Steve Jordan, please. Because I know he's here to heckle tonight.
Steve, he doesn't do stuff like that, does he?
I think this has been set up, actually.
Uh-oh. So what got you into motorsports?
Just a passion, I guess, for racing myself.
Well,
So-
did you ever drive as a young
Yeah.
kid?
I mean, I was raised in Southern California, born and raised in Southern California. Fight on. And I started in motocross. I was an ANMA District 37 desert racer, motorcycles, and then started racing the SCORE High Desert Off-Road Series and cars and the Mickey Thompson Indoor Series.
And what made you give that up and go to work in the series? And
Well, I was by trade, I was a landscaper. So I was a landscape contractor in Southern California, and I really didn't want to work. I'm not lazy, but I didn't like the physical stuff. And
you and Bob ought to sit down. And
the full
discuss that.
babysitting. We have a lot in common, yes. But so it was something that I wanted to get into, and I'm not the best mechanic, but so I purchased a graphics company that was in Huntington Beach, California, and brought it here to Indy and moved here in 1993.
That seems like a long time ago when you think about it.
Yeah.
But then I start thinking 93. Well, wait a minute.
Well, I met you in 94.
Yes.
So
Yes. And you were driving a transporter for
Yeah.
Simon.
yeah, I still have a CDL. I mean, got my pilot's license when I was 17, and got my CDL when I was 18. So, is anybody scared? Should be.
What's it like, from working as a mechanic and working as a transport driver and pit setup guy? And I mean, when I saw you, when I first met you, did a little bit of everything.
Yeah, if you wish. That's fine. I don't care. I mean,
And have transformed into a spotter. What's it like to be standing up and you basically control the driver's fate because you tell him who's where and stuff that he might not see? How did you get good at it?
I don't know that I ever got good at it. I think I got lucky. Does it matter who your driver is? Maybe.
Yeah. If he listens.
Who do you think my first driver was?
Eliseo Salas. Oh, I have no idea.
No.
No.
No. Let's say.
Who was it?
Well, my first driver was some guy from New Zealand.
Really?
Oh, there you go. Pow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the first race I ever did was in Homestead, and you know what happened, Don? Yeah,
Tell
he
me.
won.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won the championship.
Yeah.
Won about everything.
Yeah.
So, it was a pretty good run.
Yeah. Then where else did you go?
Well, I knew you were going to get to this, weren't you? And you promised you wouldn't, but
I did.
I was hired away from Target Chip Ganassi Racing by the late, great Dan Weldon.
You know
So-
what?
I went to work for Dan in 2009 and worked with him until his death. So
But you have continued on. I always thought to myself,
Yeah.
and I wasn't going to bring that up, but and if you hadn't, it wouldn't have made any difference. I wouldn't have said anything. But to move on from that, I thought, well, it's got to be kind of tough.
Well, I think anybody that goes through something when you get as close to someone like that, I mean, it's still hard. Okay, I mean, it really is. I don't usually talk about it in public because it is hard. It gets better. I mean, as time goes on, to a degree. But to have a relationship and to be treated by someone the way that he treated me, and anybody who worked for him, that was the outstanding point. It wasn't his driving ability or anything else. But to answer kind of your question, the thing about going on, Sam Schmidt had a lot to do with it because, you know, Dan was killed while driving for Sam, and Sam reached out to me and asked me, you know, if I had a desire to continue to do it, that he asked me to do it with his team. So, you know, after a little pondering, I did end up, you know, going, you know, back, or went to Sam's team, and I spotted for like Tristan Vautier and Esteban Guerrieri, you know, in the lights, and right, you know, you remember him?
Yeah.
So, I mean, things like that. So I did that for a while, and, you know, then I was blessed. You know, another great thing that we at least had in common, I mean, I still do, but me and Mr. Jenkins, is I got the opportunity to go work for Tony George at Ed Carpenter Racing and became Ed Carpenter spotter. So.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, are you continuing in that spot?
Yeah, I've been there. I think this will be my 6th or 7th year. It's something like that. I mean, I continue to do that. So with the business-to-business kind of a deal with Ed, it allows Bell Helmets to continue their trackside support with the series. Ed's team provides me a place to work to take care of all the helmets for the IndyCar drivers at the event. And then, of course, when the car's on track, then I go ahead and, you know, I go out road course or oval and spot. So, but, you know, they share the expenses and stuff. So it is good. So.
Now, you left here and you went to Florida.
Yes, sir.
Was your intention to kind of spend the rest of your glorious days down in sunny Florida?
Yeah, certainly.
So what brought you up here? Is snow and cold?
My asshole kid. Where's Bill Simpson? He'll attest to it. Look at, he's got his hand up. Yeah, I agree. See? Yeah.
Well, all right.
I mean, no kids want to work, you know. So no. So yeah, I kind of had to be forced to come back to do some work I didn't really want to do, but
financially it was a good idea. Keeps Ellen in the lifestyle to which she's accustomed.
Shit, she's set for life.
Yeah.
I married well.
Yeah, you did, actually.
I told my kid, you can marry more money in 5 minutes you'll make in a lifetime. I'll fall in love later. Do any of you know my wife?
Yes.
I'll have a black eye later.
Yeah. Your wife is a princess,
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
she is. No, she really is.
Now, you are currently employed by Bell Helmets. And you work in that little tiny building that's on Main Street, which will one of these days be dust as it disappears.
Very close.
But what do you do for Bell Helmet? What is your
Well,
position?
I was hired on as a consultant, and why that happened, I don't know. But to be very honest, why I got into the safety end, and by the way, we are sitting in front of an iconic man who brought safety to what it is today, and that is my good friend Bill Simpson sitting over here. And you know, you asked me a question earlier when we talked on the phone. This is where I'm going to ramble for about 10 minutes. So if you want to go to the bathroom, it's all right. But I mean, you asked me about the state of the art of helmets and stuff, and it's really not fair to, in my assessment. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a guy who invented these things such as Bill did. I think back when Bill did what he did, it was very trying, it was very tough, and there was a lot of unknown. Obviously, by the, you know, I don't want to say the computer age and this and that, technology is certainly changed. And I know Bill doesn't always agree with everything that these guys do, and I'm not intelligent enough to fight it either way or not. But The reason I got involved with Bell is because Dan wore a Bell, and I wanted to do something on the safety side. And that's what I say about anybody who's involved in the safety side of this sport or any sport, including the football guys, because, you know, they have more injuries in football from head injuries than race car drivers do, okay? So, and I know Bill devoted a good part of his life here just recently to do that, but anybody that takes the time out and has that passion and desire to help out, I seriously, you know, you just have to thank all of them. I mean, I don't care what the name of the company is. This is a passion. I just want to help people stay safe, okay? So, and I think Bill had the same thing in mind when he got, I mean, the guy that started this company here was out of Bell, California. It wasn't a helmet company. It was an auto parts, and he had two friends, I mean, you know, die in the same calendar year, and he decided it was, you know, something he wanted to get involved with. It didn't take it to the level in which Bill did, but obviously this has become a very large company now, internationally and here in the United States. So.
And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Simpson started his development at Bell Helmets Factory, if I think, is that right? Yeah,
I believe he did, yes. I mean, he did a lot of research and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, you know, you look at it, you know, you look at a company like Bell and you think, well, this is some big, large company. I mean, it has grown, but here in the United States, it's not as large as the entity that's Bell Racing Europe, or certainly Bell Racing International, which is in Bahrain. So that's where the facility was moved to several years back from China. So, I mean, when you look at the whole picture, which, you know, is owned up differently, but the whole thing is quite large at that point. Back when Bill did it, you know, and other innovators, you know, it was kind of like single people, you know, I mean, so.
You have two bags there, both of which say Bell. What do they contain?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, and then I'll go ahead and open it up. The thing, what I brought up here, the only reason I brought these is not to, you know, show the Bell brand as much as anything else, but I just wanted to show you the current helmet that we produce for NASCAR, and the current helmet that is going to take over in homologation for the IndyCar next year. Now, it was active in Formula One this year, so I just, you know, I thought that you as fans, you don't get an opportunity to see things like this up close, where you can just pass them around, touch them, look at them, see how they're actually, you know, constructed and made. So that's why I brought them along. I mean, this is something that nobody in this room will probably purchase going forward, but it just kind of shows you the technology that is in there. So.
And the other thing is, you've got people here who maybe have kids or grandkids that are going into the sport. They want to know that they're being protected, and you have something that they can use as they move up in the racing world. What's the difference between, I'll let you unpack as I ask this question rather slowly, what is the major difference between IndyCar and NASCAR helmets? There is a pause for a commercial. Oh, money. I see. Oh.
Yeah.
Which one costs more?
Which one would you guess costs more?
I would say the last one you opened would be my guess.
The IndyCar helmet is quite considerably more than a NASCAR helmet. So this helmet here is the current NASCAR helmet that we produce. This was generated from a helmet that we had that was an RS7 carbon. And my son and the lead engineer at Penske Engineering, or Penske Racing, helped develop this helmet. It is a RS7, but it's considered a lightweight. So it's been designed for the NASCAR customer. The air holes in the top of the helmet have been opened up because of the forced air pieces that they do run. So it helps the airflow go through them. This helmet here is probably the lightest production helmet in the United States and could be worldwide. And this is going to be something that this gentleman over here is the only guy that can understand. This helmet here carries what is the U.S. Style of homologation, and this is a Snell, and this would be a Snell 15 helmet. Okay, so it is the current Snell rating. It's what Americans or the USA goes by is the Snell Foundation. It's what his helmets were based on. This one here will also carry the Snell homologation, but it also carries an FIA, which is a European. I'm not smart enough to really, I mean, I can give you the basic difference between the two theories, but in all honesty, the European homologation system and the American system are totally two different ends, and they go two different directions. That's the best way to say it. So this has a Snell 15 rating, but it has what you have to run in Formula One and in IndyCar and in most of the IMSA cars. This carries a FIA 8860 rating. Now this helmet here is an 8860-18. So this is the brand new one, and I mean, as fans, you probably notice what's missing off of this helmet is the Xylon intrusion panel that has been in place for the last several years. So that's why I really wanted to bring it to you, because our drivers only saw this at Laguna Seca for the very first time and tried it on. And it will be mandated this year in the IndyCar so that they have to wear this. But the eye port will be smaller, and you'll see that the actual Xylon or the strengthening has been built into the helmet. So that little panel thing has gone away from the top of the visors now. So all you visor collectors that are out there, you used to like this because you could tell it was Michael Andretti's or whose ever because of the visor strip. And those things kind of went away with this Xylon panel. So.
How about, where are these designed?
Well, our engineering staff is in Belgium. That's the home of Bell Racing Europe.
Jeez.
So, and the manufacturing plant is at the F1 circuit in Bahrain.
Do they have people that come and look at IndyCar, for instance, or IMSA where they run, or NASCAR, and see what the problems they have and then try and upgrade the helmets they got to meet that? Because, as everyone's aware, I think in 2021, the IndyCar engines are going to jump 100 horsepower, maybe plus a little more. So they'll be going a lot faster. That they're building something that's for that can protect the drivers when things move up?
Well, I don't know that the teams do that, but that is really probably, I guess, would be the job of Snell and or the FIA as the organizations or the governing bodies. They're the ones that choose what rules they're going to follow. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, this testing always goes on. They're always looking at it. I know that when someone has, and it doesn't matter whether it's the guy that you see at a local track or it's a professional driver, when someone takes a large hit or a large crash, the helmets usually return here to Speedway, to the custom shop over here, and the inside of this helmet is taken apart. And you can see, you will look for subtle differences in the liner itself, some flattening and, just different things that may have absorbed a large impact. Once it's pulled out of this helmet, it would not be put back into the helmet. It would be replaced. So, and both of these helmets, all the parts are interchangeable on the inside. I mean, it's made up of the liner itself that just has a fit pad around it that will go around your skull area, and then and that's all molded into the back of the neck. But the face pieces on these helmets just pop out. They are not secured in there whatsoever. Ours are pre-channeled for radios and drink tubes, but they are interchangeable as far as size. But they come, in our company, they come from 5mm increment differences. So for instance, when you measure someone's head, all you're measuring is the circumference of the fit around this area. But if somebody has a fatter face or a thinner face, you can adjust the fit by, adjusting the face pad itself. So, but, can I keep going?
Go, sure.
Okay. The big thing is now, which is state of the art, and it's what Bell has brought forward and made it more economical, is the fact that all of our Bell athletes have what is a 3D head scan. So this is a helmet that comes off the rack. This is a 57 centimeter helmet, which would be a 7 1/8 hat size. But when you see an athlete's helmet, they all get a 3D head scan, the tooling is made, and the interior is made specifically for their head. And that becomes a part number, and whenever it's changed out, it isn't an off-the-rack interior piece. It used to be the cost of the tooling was so expensive to do, you know, but now it's, with technology, it's gotten cheaper, but that's the process. Every driver in NASCAR that drives for Roger Penske wears this exact helmet. Like I say, they helped design it, and they wear this exclusively. So,
What about his IndyCar team?
no. It's and I think it always should be a driver's choice. Okay. I mean, that's me personally. I mean, it's just like this guy, and I know he's not a big. Nobody here is probably going to be a big fan of this Antonio Brown, but if he feels safer wearing a certain helmet, as long as it meets the specification, I think he should be able to wear that. I mean, and I think it's certainly the same. It isn't always the same, like, say, more like in an NHRA. NHRA has kind of gone, they more follow the head-to-toe kind of a situation to where they're outfitted by one whole company, and so their drivers are forced to wear a certain helmet, okay? I've just recently, J.R. Todd came to us in May, and he said, you know, hey, I don't really like the current helmet that I'm wearing because of the weight and stuff. I believe that, you know, he started, my son fit him for one of these, the older model, the HP7. This is an HP77, but he fit him in one of those. Then Richie Crampton got one, his teammate at Coletta. Now, I just built one 2 weeks ago for Doug Coletta. He raced it in Vegas. It came back. I made some adjustments and shipped it back to Pomona, and he'll wear it this weekend. So we're starting, you know, some of those areas, you know, to get into those.
Now, I mentioned earlier that some people here may have kids or grandkids that are into racing. Now, Bill had built a helmet where you could put fit in, and as their head grew, you could take it out and use the same head. You didn't have to buy a new one every year. Does Bell have that?
Bell has that on the entry level for the entry level, which is normally a go-kart type of a kid, yes. It's a standard size shell, and then there is an insert pad with a different thickness of padding that goes into it that basically just Velcros into the top. And so you can go from, say, like an XS to a 4XS by adding, padding to it. The shell remains the same, it's just the interior padding. That is the only helmet that we offer that has adjustable padding.
Now, this question came up from the peanut gallery.
Yeah, I'm sure this is going to be good.
Well, no, it's nothing. Don't want to know who you're, never mind.
Yeah.
How do you account for all the hair, as in Santino or Colton Herta or Matthias? Does that affect the size of the helmet if they got a big mop? You and I don't have that problem, never would, but.
Yeah. I lost my toupee last night when I sat next to you at dinner and you opened the door and it flew about 3 miles down the roadway. Yeah. So,
wasn't it funny watching Steve trying to catch it?
Yeah. It was more funnier watching Janice trying to catch Steve, but
yeah.
But I mean, kind of when you say that, that's kind of funny, because it draws a story to me of Courtney Force, or Courtney Rahal, or whatever she goes by today.
Force. She
met when Graham met her, and the Force families always wore a Simpson helmet through all of their children, and John all the way down. Oh, and so Graham is a Bell athlete, but when he met Courtney, they wandered to the racetrack, and she kind of. She's, hey, let me see your helmet. She puts it on, and he goes, well, that doesn't fit you very well. And she goes, well, I put my hair up. Okay, so once she physically put her hair up properly, the helmet fit better. So that's a better example, I guess, than Santino. But in that case, Simpson, that Bill is sold, but Simpson acquired a company from Italy called Stilo. And John has kind of changed over to that deal, but it is a Simpson company now. So, but
So there is a minor adjustment if you got a mop.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Colton wears the same size helmet all year long. So, I mean, he had longer hair in the beginning of the season. His helmet size didn't change when he cut his hair.
Okay.
So,
obviously, you enjoy what you're doing because it's cold here, and as you mentioned last night, Ellen is sitting by the pool with her Mai Tai and having a good time. You're up here with jacket.
She doesn't drink.
Well, to be a fake one.
She has to take other types of drugs to put up with me.
Well, I didn't want to bring that up, but she said you can mention it.
She has a lot of good gummies.
Oh, okay.
You ever tried gummies, Don?
No.
This is where the show is really going to start getting good. Because I've got a few.
What do you use them for? I hope not when you're designing somebody's helmet. You get a little buzz.
Look, that's way above me.
Okay.
Design.
Well, I meant making it, for the particular athlete. Are you planning to continue living up here in freezing, or what's your contract for? I think you said something about December to October or something like that.
Well, we're in a transitioning period, and there's only a few people that are in the United States that can build this helmet. So unfortunately, the guy that we got rid of a while back, a little bit ago. My son is one that can build the helmets, but Christopher's moving on to more of a consultant role, and he is going to be in charge of our professional athletes, our contracts and things like that, but he has also accepted a position with Swindell Speed Labs.
What's that?
He's working with Kevin Swindell.
And what do they do?
Well, that's Sammy Swindell's son.
Yeah.
I mean, and they do have a race team, but they do have an apparel line. But Christopher is more into the marketing and social media, digital, stuff. So I think he's broadening their aspects of business, and they're looking to move from Brownsburg to North Carolina, and then doing two kind of split shops. Which is what we just basically did, if I can throw another plug in for Bill. I mean, we just opened up a pro shop in Mooresville, North Carolina. So we have somebody in North Carolina to take care of the NASCAR clients there locally by the shops, and that's why this shop was put in. There's a lot of dirt racers, pavement racers in this area, obviously, so we cater to those guys. There's a lot of IndyCar shops that are here, so that's the reason, thus, the pro shop over here on Main Street versus where USA, you want to call it's corporate, it's in Champaign, Illinois. So it's only an hour and a half away.
Is the current building going to be disappear shortly?
Probably.
Are you looking for a new location?
I thought this would be a good place.
What? Really?
Yeah, hell, I could drink and build these things. That'd be pretty good.
That'd be nice. They got a room back there.
Yeah.
On Mondays they have dart league, so Monday would be out to work, but you can.
So anybody that's familiar with the Speedway downtown renovation kind of thing, we moved into the old Linder building there, and we lease it from the Speedway, or from the town of Speedway. It is their property. We've been in that lease for a while. They were supposed to already tear it down, but they were already supposed to build the new building out in front that you see a picture of, and they were also supposed to build a hotel out there on the corner, and
that's
I'm gonna run for mayor too, okay? So Claremont though. But I think that what's happened is that and I hope I don't step on anybody's toes or upset anybody in the real estate industry, but it's kind of plateaued around here. Y'all have seen a very big growth in your property values, and I think that the numbers that were prospected for these buildings that are being built are just a little above what the market's going to bear at this point. When we signed a lease to be the major person inside of that building that's supposed to be erected there on Main Street, the price was here, and the price has done nothing but go up. And that's why you see the Wilshaw apartments, not really full. I'm being nice. You see a bunch of steel out on the corner.
Yeah.
You got, it's just People can't afford it. It doesn't make dollars and cents to do that. So until they tear down the old auto place next to us, I don't think they're coming for us. But, you know, I mean, who knows? They could call us tomorrow and tell us we got to get out. So.
And you'd call Angela and say, "Can we move our operation to McGilvery's?"
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, if we had the money, if I could borrow some from Bill, I could move into the old Wink Hartman building across the street. You know, well, what a waste of space, huh?
Somebody will get there. I guess so.
Oh, well, let's hope.
Yeah, well,
you know, I mean, it was a good shop when Ed Carpenter was there, and I'm sure it served the Steinbrenner people, you know, good. But I mean, it's expensive, you know. But now that Steinbrenner's moved out, it'll be interesting. We tried to lease that frontage area from Wink, but it just didn't happen. So
well, keep going.
Yeah.
I think back when I first met you, and we're still in the same town, essentially the same business. I mean, I don't do anything. I'm like Bob. I'm lazy. I sit and talk. That's about what I do. And you're still in the business and going along well, and you took time out to come here.
Yeah, but you can look through this room day in and day out, weekend, when these people come in here. And Bob hit the nail on the head. Look at Bill Simpson over there. Do you think he ever stopped working?
No.
I mean, you know, I think he's the largest developer in Speedway. I might come looking for him for a house here, but, you know, but no, I mean, seriously, when you have a passion for something, you continue to do stuff. But I think that a lot of people that have, say, engineered, built these cars from way back, you know, Eldon Rasmussen's here. I mean, he's been in the business forever. He doesn't stop. You know, you always do something. And I think when people stop and just do nothing, I think you start dying. And that's just my perception of it. You don't have to bust your ass 24/7, but you still stay active in the things that you enjoy and you love. And I think that's the youth of what you do.
That's why I'm still here. I love it. The people involved in it.
Everybody in this room was wondering why the hell you still did it. I just got to be honest.
I know that, and I've been offered.
But you are good at it.
No, what brings the people in is you and Bob. It isn't me.
No, it's Bob. You had a field filler. That's all I am.
You would be surprised at the reaction I got when I come out with it. He said, "Really?"
Do you know, honestly, though, it made my day when Bob Jenkins even know who the hell I was. He said, "Oh, cool." I thought he was going to say, "Who's that dumbass?" You know, I mean, seriously, I didn't figure no reaction like that. And don't ask Bill, because Bill's going to tell you. Yeah, he's a dumbass.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Tonight, again, we have 3 Hall of Famers, Eldon in the Canadian Sprint Car Hall of Fame, Bob in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame, and Bill in the Hall of Fame of America.
And before you cheer, let me just say one more thing. My old boss was inducted into the Hall of Fame the same evening this man was, and I was there with his wife and children, and it was a pleasure to see both of them at the same time. Lionheart is gone, but he's certainly not forgotten, okay? So let's give a hand to all of them, please.
And I have a collage of pictures of Dan from when he started and his wins with his wife and 1 kid and then 2 kids. I see him, think about him every day, because he never said no to come here. If he was available, he'd be here. In fact, I ran into him one day at the track. He was testing. He said, "I'm going to be in town tonight. You want me to come in?" Yeah.
Yeah, a really unique individual. I mean, people see a side of Dan, you know, in the racing side, but they don't see the heart sometimes that you see that he had.
Huge.
You sit back, one of my biggest, I don't know if it's a problem or an issue or anything, but it's like I would wonder where I would be today had he still lived, because, you know, Dan's racing career wasn't coming to an end, but he was starting a go-kart program for his son, which was one of the reasons I moved to Florida. I didn't want to be too close to him, but I had to be, you know, like, I had to be able to get there when he called. And he didn't own a plane or none of that stuff. But I'm just saying, you know, he was into developing a race team for Sebastian. And It's unique to see Susie go through this with both of the boys without his guidance, because I guarantee you there's a lot of stuff that goes on now would not have gone on had he been here.
Well, that's true.
Okay? I mean, good and bad. So.
And his sons are doing quite well.
Yeah, I mean, they raced at the Rock the Rio just recently in Vegas, and I will go there a week from today. I'll fly to Vegas for the Super Nationals, which is probably the largest go-karting event in the United States. Though I don't even know how many hundreds of kids and adults. Dan would go back every year and race. One year we went, he and Michael Schumacher both went. And this kind of shows you what kind of guy Dan is, and I'm probably getting off the track what you want to talk about, but Dan was out there racing against kids who were 13, 14 years old, and some 14-year-old kid kicked his ass. And, you know, and it's like, I mean, seriously, you think, you know, I mean, I know some guys would have got out and probably tried to kick the shit out of the little kid, you know. Instead, Dan was the most gracious person to this kid, and the kid just thought that was something. You know, but he and Michael both they were good ambassadors of our sport in general. So,
did you ever go in his house?
Well, yeah, if you were lucky enough to get in.
Yeah, I took something down to him, and he said, "Come on in." I said, "No," and the garage door was open. You could have eaten on the floor in his garage. Oh. And he said, "Come on in." "No, it's all right. I brought you this. Here you go."
Yeah. No, Dan was
fastidious.
Was just a little OCD. Dan's shoes. Dan only wore one pair of shoes per weekend, but he'd have 3 in his locker. So when you laced Dan's shoes, the shoelaces had to meet exactly, each one on each side. Okay. The clothes had to be folded a certain way, put a certain way in the locker, and he would wear a used balaclava through the practice. But when it came for race time, it was brand new. It was a brand new set of gloves. It's just, he wore out so many shoes because if it got a speck of dirt on it, out. Yeah. I mean, you'd see him, he'd try and touch them up during the day in the transporter, you know, kind of a deal, wiping them off and stuff. I remember one time, Mark Dismore Jr., now, Dan had a condo here in town, and he stayed at the Conrad. I mean, he never stayed in his own place, which was downtown, which he eventually sold to Plowman, okay? Yeah. Along with his motor coach and a few other items. But he came there one time, and poor old Mark had too much to drink. And he got sick on Dan's couch. And Dan didn't clean it. But the next morning, it was removed from the premises, and a new one came in. So, yeah, he was something.
He was something else, yeah.
Yeah.
And when Dario and TK got him in Japan, I think it was, they went and raided his room and sent half of his clothes back home.
So you know what happened a year or two after that, and I think it was the next year. Guess who? Well, for those that don't know, there is a hotel there at the facility in Japan, and this is up on a mountain, and Honda owns it. Okay, so there's a motel. There's only 2 places to eat. There is no nightlife, one of which is a sushi place, but there is no nightlife. So the only people that stayed there were the drivers and the owners. Now the teams would stay in 2 different cities about an hour away. So we bussed every day about that hour trip. Okay, and so that next year, I invited a friend to go because there was a lot of times there were extra tickets because it was paid for by them, the motels and that. So I was, hey, I got my buddy coming, team staying in Mito, He says, yeah. He says, well, you're not. And I said, come on, where am I staying? And he says, you're staying at Twin Ring Motegi. I'm staying in your room in Mito, because that is not going to happen to me again. So here I am. Hell, none of those guys want to rub elbows with me. You know what I mean? So I go back up. It was kind of cool because you could spot from your room. So, but because it overlooked the track. But yeah, he didn't take that. But this is the type of guy he was. At the end of the deal, now they always did a rain date on Sunday. So the race was on Saturday, but you couldn't fly home till Monday, okay? So they kept that open in case of rain. So he came to me after the event, and he said, that van there is going to Roppongi. Now, Roppongi is an area in Tokyo where a lot of drinking happens to excess. And it's American initiated, okay? So it's not uncommon for drivers to go in and spend large amounts of money buying shots for the whole building, okay? And they ring this bell. So they try and see who can outdo each other. So, you know, Dixon and Weldon, and they got their names on this board and all these check marks and stuff. So he looks at me, and I mean, this usually doesn't end very well, right? So he looks, and he pointed, and he said, hey, he says, see that van there? That one's going to Roppongi. That one's going back to Narita, and you have a first-class ticket to fly home at his expense. Yeah, I jumped in the car and went home, okay? So, but he did. He went out of his way for those people. He always expected for you to give as much as he gave, if that makes any sense to you. And he gave 110%.
Yeah.
You know, the guys thought I was stupid when I went to this team that was fielded by Brian Herda. And I can't tell you all the specifics, but one of the things that was in Dan's contract was that he got a brand new car for the Speedway that year because that was his first event, right? So the engineer was handpicked. So these guys are there, and I sat down with them, and I said, hey, do you realize that this guy has as good a chance as anybody else to win this event? And they were all just kind of like, yeah, right. You know, I mean, we know he's good, but, you know, this team's, you know, a second-class team, whatever, you know. And you know what? I know he didn't lead all the laps, but I know when I saw that one car crash in turn 4, I knew who the next guy who was coming around that corner was going to be, and God love him. You know, he'd have won a few more had he still been here.
Oh, you betcha you would have, I think. No question.
Yeah.
No question. Funny thing is, I watched the first day he tested at the Speedway. I was out there watching him, and I listened to him, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy gets what this is.
Oh.
He really understood it. So he got out of the car. I said, you come and do my program? And I told him what I did. He said, sure.
Yeah.
So I announced that he was coming, and people said, who the hell is that? I said, wait. You wait.
Yeah.
And sure enough, for once I was right.
You know, you listen to a lot of drivers, and everybody's different. I mean, obviously. But you, and fans listen on the radios, and you can hear the chatter between the engineer, the spotter, the driver. Dan was coming in for the last pitch stop there in 11. And, you know, the car wasn't the best. And so, like, the engineer's like, hey, you know, we want to give you a turn of front wing, and we want to adjust the tire pressure and this and that. And he said, do not effing touch it. I want 4 tires, I want fuel, and get the F out of the way. And, I mean, he didn't give a shit, but he wasn't going to spend a split second longer in that pit. And, you know, some guys might have came in and, you know, changed it all, but he was very good at this place.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And a guy that came over here is a road racer.
Yeah. And
unlike my current boss, who doesn't road race, right? But still pretty good at this place.
Yeah, not bad.
You know? But I mean, Dan come over here, he was a road racer. He never saw an oval before. So.
And the funny thing is, you know, a lot of them are a little tentative about it, but once they get into it, they love the ovals. They enjoy it. It's
yeah,
fun.
Most of them. I mean, you get your exceptions to the
oh,
rule,
yeah.
you know, the Mike Conways and the Max Chilton. I mean, it just freaks these guys out.
Right.
I spotted for Max on his first trip here to the United States when he tested an IndyCar or Indy Lights for Carlin at Homestead, and literally could not do more than 4 or 5 laps without kind of getting nauseous from going around. And I mean, this is a guy who came from the Formula One ranks,
Right.
so he knows how to drive. But it's just, it doesn't suit everybody, that's for sure. But I still think, and I think Indiana, most Hoosiers, I think, share the same opinion. I really enjoy oval racing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, and it just seems like we get less and less of it. I mean, I don't mind the road courses, but it's like now it's just, you know, I don't think we have enough.
And I think Roger mentioned that, something to that effect about adding another event. And I would suspect it might be an oval. Well, he didn't say that.
Well, if you look back at like all the classic tracks outside of Indy that we put on these great shows at, that were, you know, photo finishes and stuff, I mean, they all belong to, you know, ISC, NASCAR, whoever, you know, whatever. And I mean, it's just like we just kind of got, one way or another, you know, we got shown the side door. And when we put on a lot of good shows at Kentucky, Ed Carpenter's dueling there with, wasn't it Helio?
Helio,
If I remember exactly correctly. I was kind of watching him. I wasn't watching Julio at the time, or Helio, sorry.
Yeah,
He's a belt driver. I can't do that. But, you know, here, Chicago, you know, places like that, we don't get a chance to go back to some of those. And they're very good tracks.
Yeah.
And they suit these cars pretty good.
I'd like to see him go back to Kansas because in the infield now there's a casino.
Yeah? You're a gambler, Don.
No.
Well, you gambled putting me up here on stage tonight. I mean, you started off with conservative Bob Jenkins, right? Hey, everybody loves me. I'm Bob. How are you? You know, like that. And then it's Packy Wheeler. And if you noticed, it's about half full now. You know, the people were like headed to the exit. So.
All right, before everybody leaves, I want to say thanks for being here. If anybody wants to pick up and look at the helmets, you're welcome to. That's why you brought them. You want to see what these guys and gals wear and what's inside them. And I'm sure that Packy will be more than happy to sit here for the next hour and a half and explain everything.
No.
All right, 10 minutes.
I do know that Don has an open tab now, so anybody that wants to stay and have a cocktail with me and talk about it. But sincerely, from someone who moved here and lived here for 17 years and came to this show and lived here over on the west side, I appreciate Don doing this, and I know that you all do, but I also appreciate all of you people out there that come and support the sport, all of the motorsports. Most of you guys this has been a part of your life. Whether you're a fan or you're a mechanic or you're an official, I know you all have a passion for, you know, motorsports, and I just appreciate you all still coming out and supporting motorsports in general. So keep safe going home.
Packy Wheeler. We will be back here next week. And if you will stick around if they have any questions, I trust, for a few minutes. Otherwise, one of these are going to go out the door, probably. We will be here next week. As I was telling somebody out here, they asked me, do you have a schedule? No, because you never know who's in town when. So we work on it. I try and get it out as soon as I can, but that doesn't always happen either. But our schedule will be out on Facebook. I got Don K Facebook page. I got autosportradio.com Facebook page. And when I get my website working properly, I'll put it back on there. Don't forget the Mario Andretti exhibit is winding down. It's gone, so you missed it. The next one comes in, what, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks? The 19th. The newest one will be there, so take care. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. And I want to tell Gary and Lisa Miller, have a nice trip to the West Coast. And we'll miss you. We'll see you next year, I assume. Until next week, thanks for being here, watching, listening. Don K saying good night.